The Hantavirus. The origins being an older couple on top of a landfill taking pictures, with the Hantavirus being the outcome of sniffing, let's say, poisoned feces of rodents and items like this, right? So they basically get on a cruise ship and they're infected. Then more people get infected. We're talking, let's say, 6 people at the time of recording, with 3 people dead. That's a 50% gonna kill ratio. Point being, RIP. With the next steps, the overall understanding being what? That basically, if people are dying so fast, with them all being on a cruise ship until they hit shore, there's basically not really a next step. In other words, if it was a 100% death rate, right, then it's just time that it takes. But in this case, we're going to see what happens if this becomes like the next coronavirus, COVID. But the media is really painting this like it's a bigger deal than it is. So with the metrics being this number, this seems like, hey, it's like doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? Unless if it's delayed, and that kind of becomes now controlling kind of news pattern, what happens next, and items like this to kind of maintain that psychology. But if there's this much awareness, if you really think a second, level of thinking, it's like, why is there such a big warning when what we've seen happen is not so much? So it's kind of that you know just in case type of thinking, right? Like, hey, just in case, this may happen, right? If I tell you this, you may think, oh, okay, it may happen just in case, whatever, right? But then when it happens, the person told me just in case. They gave it a disclaimer, right? So in the end, what's gonna happen? If I knew what was gonna happen, right, I would tell you. But the point of this video is that irrespective of if it happens or if it doesn't, how do we play the game, right? So if you're, let's say, in the stock market, right, there's basically that perspective, right? But with it being today, right, unless this picks up in the next couple of days and then you try to take action, what happens then, right? It's already kind of too late, right? So how do you play the game, right? Is it okay? Is it about money? But then, hey, it's about safety. It's what if I get it, right? This could be the last video on the channel, knock on wood. So the point is, it's about how you frame it, right? Where there's news, it's about an input. And that input, what do you do with it, right? You can have basically 3 options, right? You can ignore it, you can do something about it, right? Or you can pass it on, right? And the third one, it may sound kind of weird, but it's basically, kind of like deflection. You're not accepting it, you're not, sending it back, but it's kind of like going elsewhere. So it's still not being like a yes to you, but it may be out there, right? So maybe it's a good idea that I share with you or you share with me, and I'm like, oh, okay, great, not for me, but next person, hey, friend number 2, hey, by the way, I heard about this, maybe something you don't want to consider, maybe not, right? So the news is something that, yeah, it's about information, but information is also power, as they say. And today, with the information age, if information is everywhere, then where is the power? Does that mean power is everywhere? But the definition of power being that it's basically like the above, right? If there has to be a subordinate for power to be powerful, you know what I'm saying? So in the end, I would say that the way to look at it is hantavirus could be the next big thing. It could also not. So how does your day change? Does that change your routine? Is it something like, hey, you read the news, you digest it for the capital markets or for just information knowledge, or to have, cooler talk, like, hey, you have your 3 fun facts for the day, you're talking with Jim at the cooler, on break from work. It's about how you frame it. What is the usefulness behind it? Why put something in your head if it takes up mental space? I saw this notification on my phone the other day. It was yesterday. It said something along the lines of living rent free in your brain, right? Is what is that thing that's in your brain rent free, right? Now, I pay a mortgage and rent. It's not a flex, just a fact. But if you're paying rent, right, then you feel like, if that's a pain point in your life or something you're like, this is annoying, or I wish I didn't need to do this, or some type of discomfort, why is discomfort in your brain living there for free? It is not about the fact that it is there. It's about how do you never allow it to ever be there in the first place. So when you acknowledge and accept and know that something is there, it's about removing it. It's about it never coming back. So once that's removed, right, then it's about the habits that basically are your fort, or what, protects you, to say, hey, this is not going to happen again. And if it were to happen, I know the way out. So kind of the yo-yoing of this, which ideally you're on the side where it's like you don't need to come downwards, although that may happen along the path, the ebbs and the flows. It's about, having a greater upside, right, in the long term. If, the average is 50%, you're like 62 and above, that may not sound great, but it's more than the average. But it's not about comparing to others, it's about you also knowing what is your standard, what are you trying to target, what is the goal, and where do you get to the end, right? Like COVID really could have been the ending of the world. Like in the beginning, the lockdowns, it was kind of like surreal, right? Dystopian, and then things kept going, and it's all a blur. And if you're old enough, you remember it. If you're in your teens, you probably still remember it, right? And if you're in your youth, you're probably not watching this video. So the point being that if you see the world as it once was during COVID, what is the difference, right? Apart from saying, hey, government, please help me, stimulus and all these things, what is that difference if you buy back your time? And you're not really buying it back, right? It's the world goes on pause, but not really, but it really does. But in the end, it's all about how you strategize. That if you hope for this time, right, that may be the silliest thing one can do, or maybe not, right? Because the expression preparation is, what leads to luckiness. It's something along like this where you're always prepared for that opportunity. So it's luck meets preparation. That's the expression, right? So when you're challenging yourself over period, if you get a COVID part two, where let's say, you have all the time to think and, you're just alone slash like in a comfortable unit, right? Ideally, and you're able to think, strategize, as have freedom of thought. Maybe it is things are paid for and you're not working as hard like day in, day out, right? If that's what it is day to day, which is the average grind for the average person, right? It is what it is. So from that lens, if you wait for, oh my gosh, I wish this would happen, it's the same thing as waiting for a jackpot. It's like saying, when I get the jackpot, this will happen, right? And you could play all your life and never hit that moment. Now, if that is the journey that you want to go on because that gives you happiness, amazing. But if you are the inverse, always prepared, right? And for either which outcome, you're always ready. It's not like you're waiting for if then. You have all the power, irrespective of what happens, because your discipline and habits don't teeter with the news like headlines, like the Hantavirus is going to kill you. See you in the next one.